Hello, everyone. It's me, the clinical research diva, Erica. First, I want to explain why I have a headset on. I'm having microphone difficulties, and as you probably can tell, I have a soft voice. So, until I can work those difficulties out, this is the way to really project my voice. So, thank you very much for your patience while I work that out. But today, I wanted to talk to you about the name of this video. It's called Why Are You Asking Me That? And the topic I want to talk to you about is that in recent, in the last year especially, I've been able to observe some PSV and SIV um, questionnaires and talked with sites and talked with monitors and pharmaceutical companies. And those of you on the site level may have noticed that some of the information that is being asked at your PSV and your SIV has changed. And I was doing a observation just before Christmas at a site, and almost every other question that the monitor asked, the coordinator was like, "Well, no one's ever asked us that before. Well, we've never had to give that information before. We've never had to provide an SOP for that before." So I wanted to take this chance just to briefly summarize to you some of the potential reasons why. Of course, I don't know them all. Every sponsor is different, every CRO is different, but I want to summarize for you some of the reasons why you're hearing questions that you've never heard before. If you work for a CRO, if you work for a pharmaceutical company, you are probably very much aware of the update in ICF GCP ER revision 2. And so I find it amazing that so much training is going into preparing pharmaceutical companies and CROs for the changes that this meets and this makes for how we do business. But the sites are actually being the last to find out how these changes impact how they do business and how they run their sites. They're often being the last ones to know and are left with these questions of, why are you asking me that? So I want to go over some of the main questions that I've noticed in the last year or so that have been coming up that you may, at the site level, you're not used to discussing at the SIV or the PSV. One of the things is archiving. Typically, for years, nobody mentioned that until the closeout visit. Please tell us, where you're going to be storing the records and the address and the contact person. But you'll notice sites now that monitors and CROs and pharmaceutical companies are asking you this at the PSV or the SIV. This has to do with the E6R2, the update to the GCP good clinical practices. Um, Part of the PI's responsibility is to ensure that the proper record storage, and we know that, and that's been there for years. But part of the revision is to really ensure that that is so. Previously, at the closeout visit, you gave an address and a contact number. Now that information is wanted up front. I've actually encountered sponsors that want someone to actually visit the storage location. I've actually seen that requested. Or if it's, if it's got, I had a reviewer question the name of a storage facility, thinking that it just didn't sound legitimate, and we had to investigate it and pull it up on Google and show that it really was a real facility. And you're like, what? We don't even think about that until the end of the study, and most sites don't even write full SOPs on that. They just have the address and the information, and they indicate that, it will be held on site for X amount of time, and then it'll go into storage. But now sites who have been getting this question have actually developed lengthy SOPs on this, and so I want you to know that that's just part of startup now, having to provide information about your storage and documenting it much more than we did in the past. Another thing that's been coming up is source data location. I worked on a study that the sponsor created a source data location template, and it had to be completed, and it had to be checked periodically. And I was like, well, whatever. Is this just some kind of sponsor quirk? But actually, they were just kind of ahead of the curve, because that's something that, again, you're going to be asked by just about everybody now. At the site level, you're going to be asked detailed information about where your source is kept. What should be expected to be found in the paper chart? What should be expected to be found in the EMR? Which are copies? Which are certified copies? Which are originals? You know, that's part of, again, this is part of section 8.1, GCP E6R2. So this is why you're getting asked this information, and so much detail they want to know, because now this is part of the PI's responsibility to ensure that there is a location for all source documents, but it's also part of the sponsor slash CRO to ensure that it's a safe place to keep source documents, and that every kind of source that is required for the study, every form of data, we know where it is, and we've at least been told where it should be so that it can be accessed easily. So that's one of the reasons for that. Another thing that you're being asked is about the monitoring being not just on site, but some of you at the site level, you'll notice that now not only do you have a monitor, but you've been given also an RSM, which is a remote site monitor. Or there's all kinds of names depending on the sponsor or depending on the CRO that's conducting this study. But basically, you have your monitor that comes on site, and you have your monitor that works remotely that interacts with you on the phone. And I had some sites that did not react well to that and were really taken aback and didn't understand, why do I have to talk to two people now? But again, this is part of the E6R2. The monitor does so much on site, and depending on your monitoring plan and on how fast you're recruiting, it can be such a lag time between on-site visits. And so this was done to try to close out your issues. Like if a monitor comes to your site and you have 17 issues open, and because you're a slow enroller, the next visit doesn't come for another 3 months, they don't want 17 open items just out there for 3 months. So they want the RSMs or the remote monitors to go in and try to resolve as many of those issues, especially since they tend to be more regulatory issues, to work with that. Also, you'll find that some sponsors now, not only will the monitor come on site, but they will do some remote monitoring as well. Again, same scenario. They don't want 3 months to go by without someone looking at the data. Sites are very busy. We have a monitoring plan. We are supposed to come out every 4 to 5 weeks or whatever it says, but sometimes sites are so booked that you really fall out of window to when you get there. But what if the coordinator has been entering something wrong in the EDC? Now you've got 6 months worth of data, as opposed to doing a remote visit and going in and seeing, oh no, they're entering the wrong value for this, and it gets corrected right away, as opposed to just when the monitor comes on site. So that's another part of this. Another thing that you're hearing a lot at your SIVs, they want calibration information. Again, it has to do with the PI's responsibility to ensure that all resources are available to conduct the trial. That means equipment. So now there really is a real push to ensure that things are calibrated, and that calibration records and maintenance records are able to be accessed when needed. That's just a part of this update. And lastly, I want to talk to you about the ICF. We've moved from just ICF to the informed consent process. And so you're going to be asked more questions about your process, because we want to document in the source now the process, and to ensure that everything was done properly and according to good clinical practices. So it's not just enough anymore to have the ICF completed correctly. You need to document your process. So those are just a few. There's other nuances, depending on the study, depending on the indication that's being studied. But that's why you're being asked this. So I hope this is helpful. I hope that I know sometimes you'll ask a monitor or a regulatory startup person, well, why do you need that, or why do you need to know that? And you kind of just get a response like, well, that's what the sponsor wants. But I hope that this helps you to understand that it's not just some crazy arbitrary demand, but that it's actually coming out of good clinical practices. It's actually coming out of a desire to conduct trials with more efficiency. And so take a look at the update on the website, and there's various places you can look up ICH GCP R2 E6R2. Take a look at it. Talk to your monitor. Your monitor is a good source of information. Just say, hey, there's a lot of changes going on. How is this going to affect my site? If you're a budget person, you need to look into this as well. You need to take a look at it because, again, like I said, now your site's going to be required to interact in lots of cases now with two monitors, one remote and one on site. And then your on-site monitor is also going to be interacting remotely and on site. And so that may require budget changes, that may require additional needs on the part of the site. So it's definitely something to look into. Don't dismiss it as just crazy monitors or crazy sponsors that are just, changing all the rules and asking all these crazy questions. That's not the case. It really is based on legitimate changes in the industry. It's unfortunate that sites are kind of at the end of the transition. They're kind of the last group to be transitioned into this. That's unfortunate, but again, your monitor is a great source of information. Have that conversation with them. Hey, how is this changing the industry? How is this changing how my site is going to do research? And go from there. So please thumbs up, if this video was helpful. If you think of any other topics you'd like more information about, please feel free to put it in the comments. I'm glad to talk about it. And again, this was just a very brief summary. If you want more information about how the GCP E6R2 is going to impact your site and how your site does business, hey, shoot me a comment and I'm glad to talk to you. Thanks very much. Please subscribe and everybody have a great day. Thanks.